a hurry.
Yeah.
And the other thing you said, Louisa, I think is absolutely true. It has to start with the organization as opposed to the individual, right? The foundation of trust is that the organization plants the seeds of trust in the people that are there, modeling the kind of behavior that they want back from the individuals.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You know, Crystal, you said earlier it's like a family. It's like a family. And when you think about families, typically there are high levels of trust in your family. You know, those are typically the people you trust the most in the world, aren't they?
They are, and I think, again, what holds a family together, a really functioning family. We can talk about talk about lots of families, but I think when we talk about really functioning families, there's such a core of trust and acceptance that we are individual and we aren't all perfect. And part of problem solving and identifying options and opportunity really is about taking risk and being able to take risk and encouraged to take risk, obviously within a framework, and I guess that's the balancing line.
Sure.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. And so, so you've created this, fabulous culture. It sounds like you do a number of things to sustain the culture. So tell us more about, some of the things going on in the economy that have affected your organization. Tell us, you're going through a tough time.
So what's the tough time all about?
Yeah.
Really convergence of two things. The tough times that we all face, most organizations, companies, individuals, people, stem from the economic global downturn. So because we're in the employment field and we work with businesses too and support businesses, when economic times get bad and people start to lose their jobs, we start to get really busy. And, combined with that, you'll see things like government policy shift that can create new programs, new funds, new opportunities for people who are unemployed. A lot of that gets channeled through one of the core areas of our business, which is employment services. So for the last couple of years, we've had people working right to the max capacity in terms of, the work that they're expected to do. And then the other thing that's going on in Ontario is that employment services themselves are being realigned. Basically, the government is looking at how funds from the federal government and the provincial government are used to be more efficient in terms of delivering services to the people of Ontario. And so we're caught up in that too. And what it has led to is the need to downsize. In some cases, we're closing some offices, we're opening some others. There's going to be, overall, at the end of the process, which really wraps up this August, fewer people in this program at Northern Lights in terms of employees than we have now. And yet, at the same time, we have to keep delivering services.
Yeah. And so I understand that it took a long time before all this information came to you. So your organization sort of sat in limbo. What was that like for your employees?
Well, I think, when it comes to change, it's difficult for all of us to work through change. And sometimes anticipating the change is the hardest part because of the uncertainty that brings. And certainly, the mindset that happens sometimes is just, will it be bad? Will it be good? And so it wears on people over time. But I think the other flip side of that, having that length of time, is really the preparation and the legwork and the time you can take to think about it and at least process and move hopefully beyond the stage of, oh my, what's this going to mean for us? So, while it did have some negative effects, it also had some positive effects in that we mobilized and started to think about, how were we going to cope. But certainly it was an uncertain point in the history of our company, not knowing where we were going to be at the end.
Well, yeah, and I can imagine that has tremendous, raises a whole number of challenges, on its own when people are thinking, well, am I going to have a job? Am I not going to have a job? Am I going to have more work? And then you've got people who absolutely love working at Northern Lights and wondering, will I be part? I mean, I can just imagine all of that, comes up as you're trying to deliver services, as you were saying earlier, right? So did the organization do anything specifically to manage, that kind of stress caused by uncertainty?
There's a few things I think we did. I don't know if I don't know if there's anything that we sort of intentionally did beyond, again, sticking to our values and dealing with people the way we always promised to deal with them. But we talk a lot. I mean, there's a lot of communication. So the idea of, getting the information out to everybody as quickly as we get it, sort of thing, has been part of it. We draw on the past. So telling stories, reminding ourselves of the hard times we've had in the past and we struggle through and came out the other side. And so that, getting back to what Crystal said, it's sort of, you can start to imagine the future, imagine the possibilities of the future and not focus so much on the present. Acknowledging our feelings, so not just kind of closeting things, giving people a chance to express how they feel about things.
Wait, you actually let people talk about feelings? Did you hear that?
That's a mistake for sure.
Have you ever heard of that before?
No.
Imagine people actually, I mean, I always say this, that, people don't. In fact, I just recently wrote an article about this for Positive Psychology News Daily, and it was about, people don't leave their hearts at home when they come to work.
Right. Yep.
And so many employers think, oh, no, got to check out at the door, got to be put on the strong face.
Sure.
And instead you're saying, no, we acknowledge the feelings. We acknowledge it.
Yeah, because again, if they're buried, then the stress is going to increase and people are going to not be able to perform and to deliver the services. We're still working with people who don't have jobs. And, we're doing that while we're wondering whether we're going to have a job. Those, so...
it's like compound.
Yeah, I don't think bottling things up is the way to go. And so, again, because we're a family, the teams and the team members find, I think, encouragement in sharing their feelings with each other. And not only just their feelings, but also encouraging each other.
Yeah. So we're talking today to Crystal Dolliver and Brian Martin from Northern Lights Canada about keeping people engaged even in the tough times. And we are your co-hosts, Tim and Louisa Jewell, on Career Buzz on CIUT 89.5 FM. One of the things that I did notice quite a bit at Northern Lights was laughing. The use of humor. Crystal, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can speak from a personal point of view that when I was hired, I realized very quickly that Northern Lights was a different organization. I was coming from the airline industry, and it was quite hierarchical, and so there was quite a difference in the interview process that I went through, and immediately humor surfaced, just in the way and the playfulness of the interview, and I've seen that carried over certainly through the years that I've worked for Northern Lights since 2002. Having fun, having that social time, and enjoying the work we do has always been a fundamental for Northern Lights, and I know humor, in fact, and fun, has been a part of who we are. And again, wherever you hear laughter, typically at a conference, you're going to find Northern Lights staff somewhere in the vicinity. We try and do a lot of it, and I think again it's such an important aspect of a culture that you can encourage that, because that really does help to deal with stress. We know this, and it's founded in reality for all of us, and certainly in research.
So tell us more about that. So tell us more, like, how would an organization use humor to help get them through the tough times?
Well, I think it gives you sometimes a little bit more perspective, and it helps to ease tension, which obviously ramps up whenever you're in a lot of uncertainty. I think, again, it helps us to remember the other things that are important. And I think, again, it really, when I think about the times that we spend together in our teams, it does build that sense of shared joy and celebration, and I believe that that's a huge part of keeping resilience in the team and helping them adjust to the changes that are happening.
Yeah, I think there's something, physical, like there's some physiological sort of release when you're laughing. And I like the idea that you're right, when you're laughing at something, it's very hard, to have a negative perspective on something when you're laughing about it. Now obviously you're not going to laugh at everything, but pretty well most things you can, you can find at least some humor in the tough times. Like I say, it's not always appropriate.
I remember my first day at the company was a company-wide meeting in the basement of some dingy building, 80 or so people at the time, and I didn't know anybody, and I thought they were all crazy because it really was a celebration, and I just could not put two pieces